Let's hear it, Cash. Damn. What's going on, guys? It's Charles Cerritho, and we're back at it again with another episode of the Factory Academy here at Function Factory Performance. And today we've got Daniel Bushy's 2019 Ford F-150 fresh off the dealership here. He literally just put these wheels on and some Fox shocks, getting a full race V2 front mount intercooler for his F-150. Again, guys, what's in this box is the Full-Race Motorsports V2 relocation kit for the F-150. It is an intercooler, it comes with charge pipes, and this one is optioned out with the Turbo Smart blow-off valve. So let's open this thing up. We got our trusty $1 knife right here. And as you can see, guys, we've got Full Race all over the box. Got that cool made in America, made in the USA, which it is. It's made over in Phoenix, Arizona, next to the airport. They are local to us, guys. This intercooler is available for the 2011 all the way up to the 2020, but on our website we do have options. So there are 2011 to 2014 and then 2015 to 2020, and then in the options you guys are going to let us know what year of F-150 you have so we can tailor that intercooler just for your year specific. So almost open here. Let's see, we got a ton of peanuts. Ton of packing peanuts. We're gonna get these things everywhere, I already know. So we're gonna start taking we're gonna take it apart. So we've got a parts checklist here. Got a license plate frame, got some stickers. Pretty awesome, give you some memorabilia there. All right, let's start taking some stuff out. This is our main transfer tube right here. This is goes, from my memory, this goes on top near the radiator. These are all, from what I can see, it's all wrinkled black. This is a Y pipe, so both the turbos enter here and enter into one right there. Have our blow-off valve tube. This is a Turbo Smart flange kit. Got a bunch of nice T-clamps. We have the top mounting bracket. Don't know, we got another bracket right there. Throttle body spacer for vacuum ports. I believe this is the ACC adapter if needed. And we got a bunch of branded couplers here. Pretty cool. Got some got a hump connector. I remember this one. This one goes by the passenger side. Got some more straights. Another straight. Just full of peanuts everywhere. I have never seen this many peanuts in my life. 2 hours later. All right, let's just start pulling some stuff out here. Oh, this is the intercooler right here. Yep, there's the big boy himself. That's the bulk of the weight right there. Here's the bad boy himself. So you'll be able to see the difference with our intercooler and this one in a later video. But this is the raw intercooler. I recommend the black. I think it looks sexy. But if this guy seems like he likes bling bling. He's got the chrome rims, so he's gonna want the shiny intercooler. Don't blame him. It's gonna go great with the way his truck looks. But if you've got like a lead foot or a black truck or maybe even a white truck, that's just a personal preference. I really like the black. Everything here is made in America. The blow-off valve is made in Australia, but they do have a USA headquarters. There's the beautiful intercooler. And we're gonna definitely do a comparison between the stock intercooler and our aftermarket Full Race one to show you guys the gigantic difference in size and thickness and these cast in tanks. And they do say Full Race on them. So there's the intercooler itself. That's everything. So we're gonna take some pictures. I'm gonna get some lunch. We're gonna get started on this 2019 F-150.
All right guys, Cody, we're here doing another install on a 2020 F-150, putting a full race intercooler and charge piping into it, as well as a turbo smart blow off valve. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it. It's a little different on the grill design, so we're kind of gonna work through that, but at the same time, we're gonna show you how it gets done. So let's go ahead and dive in by getting some of the things off the top so we can access the grill, get the grill out of there because the intercooler is right below that. There'll be a little bit of stuff we have to get on from underneath, and we will be using a lift for that, but at home, if you're doing this in your driveway or in your garage, you can definitely do this just by getting under the vehicle. The truck's so tall, it's not a little car like a Mustang or anything, so we'll be able to crawl under there, drop that panel, and do that. We might do that just so you can show you, but just for video reference, we'll go ahead and lift it up so you guys can see what we're actually doing. So let's go ahead and jump into this and get going on it. All right, so we'll go ahead and pull these clips off. Once again, just like everything else, there's gonna be a top clip and a bottom clip. Get that top clip out of there, bottom will come out. There's gonna be probably 10, if not more on here. We'll just go ahead and bust all those out. We're gonna get the snorkel out of the way just because it is on top of this shroud. All right, so we already went and moved all the clips out of this plastic panel. You don't have to remove the snorkel. We'll be able to just lift the snorkel just like getting those two clips out of there and be able to remove this panel. And we'll be able to set this to the side. All right, so now that we got the top panel out of there, we can get snorkel we're gonna leave there. There's gonna be 4 bolts on the top right here that's holding the grill on, so we'll go ahead and pull those off, and that'll let us remove the grill. These are gonna be 10 mils. So you can use that, but we're using kind of what you would use in your garage just to kind of show you what we would do if we were in our garage. So on the 2020, this one does have the active shutter valves in front of the radiator. So it'll just be a simple clip on top of here. We'll go ahead and pop that off and it just presses into that hole. Set that to the side, you can route it around there. We'll be able to have a bunch of access. We gotta start by getting these off on the bottom. There'll be some clips as well on the very bottom that we'll have to remove to get this grill out. So we lifted the truck up. We're just gonna go in here and just get the intercooler, the original one, out of there, just get it out of our way, make some more room for us getting the grill out. So we're gonna start by getting this factory intercooler boots off of the factory piping. We're still gonna retain the factory piping on the turbo side or engine side. We're just replacing the intercooler and adding new onto there. So we'll go ahead and get these intercooler boots out. So now that we got the 7mm clamps that hold on the intercooler brackets off, or intercooler boots off, we're gonna take off this intercooler bracket, this big bracket on the bottom, get that out of our way, and try getting this factory intercooler out of there. It's 15mm. Use an extension just so I don't rack my knuckles, and break it free. All right guys, now that we got the intercooler bracket out of there, so the intercooler can actually come out from the factory spot, we'll go ahead and get the blow-off valve disconnected. We got the recirc valve tube that goes back up to the air box. We also have the electronic valve for it, it's an electronic blow-off valve. So we'll go ahead and pull those off. If you get the quick look under here, this gray tab, you just take it and turn it driver's side up. And what that'll do is actually release it, and then you can get it out of your way. Just kind of move it out of your way for right now. And there's gonna be electrical wire right next to it, very visible when you're actually under here. And just pull that guy out. Set that out to the side. And now that we got the clamps loose, we'll be able to wiggle and get those clamps out. They might be stuck due to being on there with heat cycles and everything, but a little bit of maneuvering, it'll definitely come out. All right, as you can see on the factory intercooler, we have plastic intakes compared to the cast aluminum intakes on this one, as well as taking the blow-off valve and getting it out of an area that isn't very prioritized for it and getting it back into the tubing. We'll be able to get rid of some of these sharp like bins and areas where airflow will be restricted or slowed down, and we'll be able to keep it all nice and flow. Just as much as you can see the dramatic size difference, not only height, but as well as width and length. And as well as putting this thing in there, when you see once we get it in there, it'll be a lot higher, and being a lot higher, we'll have room to put right where this goes, a winch can go, snowplow mounts, as well as a bunch of other accessories or even aftermarket bumpers, whereas this thing is so low and probably in the dangerous area, whereas this thing is gonna be so high and out of that dangerous area and get a lot better flow of air. So just like typical Fords, you gotta take the rear end off to take off the fuck bumper. Just kidding. So as you just saw, we pulled 2 7mm out of this side. There's also gonna be 2 7mm just like this on the other side, just opposite. After you get those 2 bolts out, that's all that's holding this thing on fastener-wise. Just come in here and kind of pry this underneath, and you'll be able to get it over the fastening parts, like so. And then give it a nice little pull over here. It'll disconnect. Just follow that back around. And as it comes all the way across, pull this side out. And then, there you go. All right, so now once we get that painted piece off, the trim, you're gonna see a bolt right here. And just like the other side, it's gonna have one as well. We'll go ahead and pop that 8mm bolt off. And that's the last thing that's holding on the grill, hopefully. So once you get these 2 bolts out of there, there's gonna be nothing else holding on the grill. You'll be able to grab it. Just make sure you watch, because these things are right encapsulated in the headlight, so you don't want to scratch the headlight pulling this out on either side. There's also 2 little retainers in here. They come out usually when you pull these top bolts out, just like that. As you can see, this thing's about ready to fall out. And there we go. So these things didn't get put on camera, but there's just little clips right here in these corners. Take a pry tool, pull those 4 clips off, 2 on each side, and this will just kind of give you access so we can kind of move it out of our way. Get to these top bolts up here, which are going to be 13s. I'm going to be using a wobble extension, so the extension kind of wobbles around, just so we can see what I'm doing while I'm in there. You can definitely do this with a solid extension. You don't need the kind of tools like this. So let's go ahead and get that thing off. So this is that bracket that was in there with the 2 13mm on it. This bracket actually holds the top of the intercooler of the original one. We have a new replacement for this, so we'll set this off to the side just for a stock part if we ever need it in the future, but we don't need this anymore. All right, so we grabbed the factory bushings off the factory intercooler. We're gonna go ahead and install these on the intercooler just now, precaution, before we start putting this in there. We're gonna start test fitting, but if everything goes well, then we'll go ahead and start tightening things down. So we'll precautionally put these in there right now. There we go, just make sure you get it pushed down, get a nice fit on there, make sure it's not barely on there. And we'll go ahead and get the new lower bracket in that's gonna hold the bottom of this, and we'll start putting the intercooler in. The new bracket will just fit right under the AC condenser, and we'll go ahead and grab the factory bolts that we took out of the original bracket and just kind of slide them in there. Take a little bit of tug and pull just because of this plastic that we decided to retain, and get her on in there. Try hand starting these because these do tend to strip out. We'll go ahead and start this other side. Start both bolts before you tighten one, so that way you can still maneuver the bracket around. So now that we have this lower bracket in there nice and tight and everything, we have to put this new bracket on the hood latch bolts. So before we take the hood latch off, because this is aligned for the hood to actually hit, we're gonna go ahead and mark it. Just taking a silver Sharpie, in this case, we got Charles's bronze Sharpie, and don't tell him I took it. And just mark around the bolt, and it'll kind of show you right where this needs to go. There might be some grease or polish or armor all, so kind of clean that off a little bit, and just mark around the bolt. And it'll kind of help you center this back out once you get the bracket back on there. And before we put the intercooler up here, let's go ahead and pull the let's go ahead and pull the horns out of our way, because these do get attached to the intercooler. And we'll just go ahead and just set these to the side. All right, guys, so all we did so far is we just put the intercooler in there. Just one thing to note is the nipple and the tab do go on the driver's side, on the left side of the vehicle. Put your hood latch over on the back side. We still want to put this in factory placement. The bracket's just using the same bolts and the same holes as well. So go ahead and we'll start putting in the factory hardware into this area. One thing to note is you might have to maneuver the intercooler around just to get those holes lined up. And like I keep saying in every video and every hole I do, man, put all the bolts in loose and then go back and tighten them all up. Really helps with alignment, really helps get all the nice bolts in there without cross-threading anything. And then we'll go ahead and we'll snug it up, not too tight. Just snug it up, but you still want to be able to move the hood latch and make sure we're still aligned where we need to go. And we'll go ahead and come back in here, make sure our bolts are kind of where they need to be. Right about there, and we'll go ahead and tighten it up. And one other thing on a quick side note, putting on these original grommets onto the Full Race. These Full Race intercoolers have a higher tolerance, so everything fits a lot snugger. You might need to put a little bit of oil or even some like soapy water, just enough so you can get this down all the way on there. I recommend putting the boots in this bracket first because it's a really nice tolerance fit, and then putting the rubber boots with the whole bracket on top of the intercooler. That's just my recommendation, but you can do it how you want to do it. All right, so we put the hose on there, pretty straightforward. I forgot to put the clamp on, but it's not a big deal in this scenario. Just take the nut off and you'll be able to walk this around the back side. and bring it back. We recommend taking these T-bolt clamps, and when you put them, don't face them like right here where the grill is gonna be. You can't get to it, let alone you don't know if there's gonna be room right there when you're putting this all together. One thing we do know, if you look right in here, you can see there's a big hole or area where we can actually work on. So if we ever have an issue right here, we'll be able to stick our arm up in this area and we'll be able to access that T-bolt clamp. So let's go ahead and we'll angle this T-bolt clamp right where we'll be able to access it in future areas without taking a bunch of time to disassemble just to get to that clamp. So we're gonna go ahead and shove this in here, make sure we get kind of a good alignment. These tubes do move quite a bit, so we can just verify that we have a good alignment with this thing, like everything aligns well. We'll go ahead and get the silicone boot in that area, just show you how that's kind of a pain in the butt, but at the same time, once it's all done, it'll be a perfect fit and we'll never have an issue. All right guys, so we're gonna go ahead and do the driver's side intercooler piping. To the driver's side, we gotta remove the factory cold side tube to throttle body. And while we're up there, we'll go ahead and put the throttle body spacer / vacuum block on there. So let's go ahead and lower this thing down. We'll get that tube out of there and show you what we need to do. Also on a side note, we're also getting rid of the recirculation and we're going to just an atmospheric dump for the blow off valve. So we'll remove that and I'll show you how to plug that off up there as well. All right guys, so we're gonna get the top tube out. We're gonna go ahead and disconnect this map sensor. Pretty simple, get that out of the way. There's gonna be a little plastic clip right here. We'll tackle that in a second. But first we'll grab this white clip on this PCV valve and get it out of our way as well. Just push those two tabs in there, pulls right off. All right, so we'll go ahead and get these hose clamps off. We really only need to take off this one because we're replacing it with a new one. So just loosen that up pretty good just so we can get it past the lip. Want it really nice and loose. Then we can go ahead and get that plastic clip off that wiring. We can get that whole tube out of there. So we're gonna go ahead and pull off this throttle body so we can put that spacer in there, but it's also giving us a vacuum port for our blow-off valve or any other future mods in the future. It's an 8mm, there's gonna be 4 on here. We just need enough room just to pull it out of the way so we can put on the new spacer. So Full Race makes this kind of easy for you. This is a throttle body spacer. There'd be an O-ring on it. It fits obviously in that slot. And then Full Race is gonna be facing outside, so it looks pretty wide. It's in the engine bay. So we'll go ahead and slide this between the throttle body and the intake and get it put back together. So a little tech tip is I'm gonna go ahead and put all the bolts in before I put it on the put it back on the intake. And that'll kind of align the throttle body and hold that O-ring right in this place where it needs to be. And then we can kind of equally torque it all down corner to corner, offsetting it just like how you would on your wheels, just because you don't wanna twist it all up or mess up another O-ring. Just kind of snug each one down going from corner to corner. I'm gonna start around like the 1 o'clock bolt, and I'm gonna move back down to like the 7 o'clock bolt, and then go up to like the 11 and then down to the 5 o'clock bolt. And the reason I do that is just so we can kind of equally press it all down. Remember, you are threading this into a plastic intake, so be gentle, and you're really just trying to get these snug down. There is a torque spec, but now since we're using race parts on it, if that's what you want to call it, since it is from Full Race, it's kind of up to you. All right, so there's a T27 in here. We'll go ahead and pull that bolt out. This is on the factory piping. This is gonna be your intake temp and your intake temp sensor, your ambient temp, whatever you like to call it. Grab the new supplied hardware from Full Race. And we'll go ahead and put this in there. So we have the new cold side intercooler pipe going onto the throttle body. We already have the sensor off of the old pipe onto the new pipe. So we'll go ahead and get this placed in there. Then we'll go back down to the bottom and work our way back up, getting this side on and coupler it onto it. And we'll show you how we get the blow-off valve from there. So we have the new blow-off valve right here. Loosen the clamp all the way. Make sure your O-ring is in there. It's gonna definitely give you a good seal. If you don't have that, huge boost leak. So now that we got the O-ring in there, we'll go ahead and slip this thing on there without messing up the O-ring. All right. So now that we got it in there, we're gonna go ahead and leave it loose, because once we get this pipe in there, we don't know exactly where it's gonna sit. So we're might wanna have to orientate this a little bit. So tighten this up so we don't lose the nut. By tighten it up, I mean just run it down, but keep this so it's movable. And we'll go ahead and shove this up in there, and we'll get all the hoses on everything. And once we find out where it goes, we wanna get this so it dumps down, so that way no water or anything goes inside of it when it opens or anything of that sort, no debris. Let's go ahead and get it on. Test fit's gonna kind of put us right where we need to be. It looks like this is gonna fit perfect, so let's go ahead and get some silicone boots up in there and start getting this thing set up. So right here is one tube, and right here is the other tube. So we'll make sure we can get a good seal with our clamps once we get our clamps in here. Same thing up here. We have a really good like penetration depth. Sounds funny, but penetration depth. So we can get a really good clamping on it. And then we'll get this. Obviously it's pointing at the frame, we don't want that. So point it back out, straight towards me or passenger side. And then we can also route our stuff into it. All right guys, so now we got all the clamps on, finishing up the last two clamps on the throttle body and cold side tubing. Just gonna finish up getting these things all nice and tightened up, secure everything. All right guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this 1/4 inch fitting and put it on the driver's side bottom, so that way it kind of hides the tube to the blow off valve. And then this will be our reference tube to our blow off valve. And then we'll route our tubing that TurboSmart has supplied with the kit, and we'll get this thing plumbed up and we'll hear a blow off valve noise. All right guys, so we have the original wiring that came onto the blow off valve from the factory. TurboSmart with your blow off valve sends a resistor. What this resistor does is tricks the ECU thinking that that's still there so it doesn't just throw a check engine light. So all we do is literally just take this, plug it right in, and then we're gonna zip tie it up so it's out of the way, you can't see it, and it's not gonna get hurt. All right guys, so we already removed all the shutter runners in here. What we're gonna do is we started cutting. We used a circular saw, just cut this out. We just did it to find out how much we had to cut out. So now that we have that much cut out, we find out that we had to take out almost 3.5 inches. So take it almost to these clips right here where the grill fits into. And what we can do from there after is the clip will still go in all these slots, but yet we still have plenty of room. So this is the main piece that you have to take out. And now that we got that out, we've already test fitted it and find that this square part right here still runs into the intercooler, which we don't need this at all. So we'll go ahead and just clean cut this. Try to leave a little bit of lip so it'll leave some rigidity to it. So we'll just leave about 1/2 inch and do a nice clean cut all the way across. So cutting with a circular saw or a grinder, however you want to cut it, it does leave a little bit of deburring. So it'd be nice, good idea to bring a file in here and clean up the edges. So let's go ahead and do that. So as you can see, we still left those parts that'll retain this clip. So we can come in here and we can put all these clips back in, and then we can still put these bolts on the 4 corners. We don't need this middle one anywhere because the only reason this was on there was to hold the shutter, middle motor and everything. So you can still have to put these clips and still put the bottom panel on. So we'll go ahead and keep doing that, get it all finished up, and we'll get it on the truck. All right guys, so we got everything all done. Everything's all put together. Everything's clipped in. Make sure you check your side panels in your headlights. There's 2 clips in there and 2 clips in here. Make sure everything fits up good, and then wipe it all down, get all your handprints off. Let's go ahead and start this thing up. I'll hand it over to Charles, and Charles will outro this for you guys. Let's do it.
So guys, it's pretty late as always. I mean, we're hustling and bustling. Cody ran into some small issues, but he got it done. And as you can see, the hood is down, and the grill is back on, and the FMIC is already in there. We'll definitely take some B-roll of what it looks like right now. I guess this is kind of the pains of a little startup here, and because I gotta be up there handling some stuff, but I super appreciate these guys knocking this out for us. And let's hear it, Cash. Damn. So if you guys didn't know, Danny optioned out this kit with the TurboSmart supersonic blow-off valve. So it is a VTA blow-off valve, not a recirc. So you can hear that sound. And then the blow-off valve that I went with is the TurboSmart V-port. That is a direct plug-and-play that will be replacing this system moving forward. So again, guys, if you are interested in this kit, go ahead and visit this link right here. We're gonna put an annotation on YouTube where you can view this 2014 to 2020 Ford F-150 relocation kit made by Full-Race Motorsports.